We've seen a lot of development of value frameworks and assessments that tend to rely on the big randomized clinical trials as opposed to those patient-reported outcome data sources. And I think one of the things I've noticed that patient organizations are doing a better job of now is really pushing for that patient-reported data to be included in those value assessments. Now, we still have, I think, a long way to go in terms of the cultural change to make sure that those data sources are appreciated and used. They're often not viewed, I think, by the academic community as being as rigorous as a randomized clinical trial. But patients would argue that the real-world data is, frankly, you know, from a real-time perspective, it's much more informative often than older research trials. And so, you know, we really need to build, I think, an appreciation in the research community that those sources are good sources of data that should be feeding into how we determine the value of treatments.
In Poland, we have this kind of therapeutic programs when they have certain criteria of inclusion, and sometimes from the observation we see that they need some changes, and together with physicians we apply to the ministry to change some of the criteria, and for example to give the access to more patients for this kind of therapy, or some different patients, because it really shows in real life how we can really effectively deal and use the innovative therapies. So this is also the part that is important.
It's a great point, and I think that kind of data being fed into these tools that we talk about, information that's getting to patients, is so important. There's a lot of innovation going on in the development of shared decision-making tools or decision aids, and how do you educate patients? But you know, I think with these new sources of data, those need to be feeding into that information.
You know, it wasn't too many years ago, real-world effectiveness, patient-reported outcomes, these were not even, you know, phrases, terms that were used to talk about healthcare. So I think we made tremendous progress, and I think what all of you are saying, we still have quite a ways to go. And there are some barriers to that, and I think that some of that has to do with education. Not everything is going to be a randomized clinical trial, and we need to be open and pragmatic to taking a look at different data sources, and hopefully as controlled as possible. But in the real world, everything is not controlled, right, and we need to be comfortable with that. And that's just one piece of the information stream. It's not everything. But I think we all want to know, what is the real world impact on these patients, because they're real patients, they're not a clinical trial. And I think our expectation is to each other, is we should hold each other accountable for that. How can we raise the bar on real world effectiveness?
Well, I think the positive thing is that we see more of that happening, and we can see that the healthcare community is appreciative of having real-world data coming from the patients. So patient-reported outcomes is becoming a real big factor nowadays, I believe. And it's great to know that the ears of the medical community are open to what patients experience and what is at stake for them with regard to the way they deal with the disease. And by all means, this is something to be built into all strategies going forward.